we've returned to the Culinary Institute of the South for part 2 of our cooking show. We're going to stop by and visit Chef Miles Huff and Chef Jackie Orrick, where we have a special dinner menu planned and a sweet treat for dessert. Perfect ideas for entertaining and recipes for the summer. And we're back in the kitchen, and our menu: blackened flounder, crispy Brussels sprouts with sun-dried tomatoes, and corn grits. And are you a chocolate lover? You're going to love this treat. So let's get started. So we're on to our next, we have our entree. And now, Chef, we are at the stove and we are going to make grits.
Yes.
Well, the special kind of grits, or yellow grits, and tell us all about that.
Well, I mean, basically grits come in 2 different types. You can get yellow or you can get white. A lot of traditionalists will say there are only white grits. There's no such thing as yellow grits, which is sort of like a polenta. I like the yellow simply because of the coloring that it adds. Remember, we eat with our eyes first, so it's kind of important to kind of get over that. So basically what I have here is water and a little bit of milk. And
that's what it is.
Yes, I got a little bit of milk in it.
Okay.
Now, a lot of chefs will use heavy cream.
Oh.
Or they'll add the heavy cream down towards the end. And this is probably, I just kind of eyeball it. Because obviously now this grits is going to bloom. So we're going to keep that going.
Okay.
We're also, now we're going to move over to our Brussels, because this is going to go in the same dish as that. We also have back here, we do have some, I have vegetable stock. If you really want it, a lot of chefs will use chicken stock and kind of flavor into that profile if you want to. The Brussels we have going. So with the Brussels, I've lightly put in, I do have some scallions in here, and they are blistered. I like them blistered, and I do have from the stock, I can steam them just a little bit if I want a little bit of a softer texture as I go on. But I still want to keep the color. I also want to keep the green, because I really have to have that color. So we're going to add a little bit of, like I said, vegetable stock in here. We'll add a little bit more to you.
So now, what are you going to add with the Brussels sprouts?
We're going to put in some sun-dried tomatoes.
Oh, as easy as that.
As easy as that, right? And they already come cut, julienne, right? So if you didn't want to actually take out the knife, put those in there. And there again, so we got this beautiful, flavorful sun-dried tomato. It just adds a little bit more of a flavor profile to that.
Isn't that pretty? It's just pretty.
And
like you said, we eat with our eyes, or your first sense is with your vision. And
we're going to have her to continue to stir those. And as we talked about, we want to layer.
Okay.
So I've grilled the corn. All I did was brush it with a little bit of oil. Yep. You could use olive oil if you want to. And all I'm wanting is some color.
Yep.
Okay, I want to bring out that color, so get the little char from the grill. And we're going to incorporate that into the grits. So the dried versus the fresh.
And what's underneath the bowl? Anything with this?
No, I'm going to show you a little technique. This is a center. Instead of going all the way down in the bowl, now I can prop it up, right? Yeah. And it falls down right into the bowl. So now we have this corn cob, right? And so I'm going to take the back of my knife and I'm going to pull out all of this, what we call the milk. So,
right.
I mean, this is some really good stuff.
So this is a great trick. I never knew that. I knew the first part, but the second part, that is actually keeps the meat.
Yes. And now what's become extremely popular, as you may not know, it's corn cob ice cream.
Pardon?
Corn cob ice cream. That's right. So that's a southern thing that actually somebody started doing a couple years ago. And I go like, what a neat trick. Yeah, corn cob ice cream. So now we're going to take this corn and we're going to incorporate it into our grits.
So this does 2 things, aesthetics and also gives a little bit more density in it? Or?
Absolutely. But I do want the grits to be a little bit thinner. So I'll keep adding, almost like we were doing a risotto. I'm going to keep adding a little bit of liquid as this corn, the grit starts to open up and grab moisture. We want to keep that going.
Well, it's also interesting. I mean, you really didn't put that much into the fluid, and all of a sudden it really yields. I mean,
grits, they yield.
Yes,
They grow.
Yes, as Mama would say, they stick to your ribs.
They stick to your ribs, absolutely. All right, this looks delicious. The colors alone, I'm just excited. So pardon me, I'm a bad chef. I always go, but I'm not doing that. I'm keeping my hands.
Let me get my fish. We'll go ahead and get that started. We have flounder, a very local flounder, which is like saying coming into season right now. So that's very, very nice. Once you get your fillets, I actually was going to show you how to fillet, but I said we'll keep it more down for the home cook because it's another technique.
Okay.
But so the cool thing about flounder is it's very versatile. You can what we call roulade. You can roll it with different types of crab, spinach, different types of things. And this is my favorite, I must admit, Paul Prudhomme. You can make your own blackening spice.
Magic savory.
Yes, actually, my daughter who's a vegetarian, she uses this on her vegetables.
And it's called black and redfish?
Yes, by
okay.
Paul Prudhomme, which I've met twice. So the cool thing about this, though, one of the key areas here is you want to take a dry paper towel and you want to try to take as much moisture off the fish as possible.
All right, very important. Otherwise, it gets soggy and mushy.
Well, not so much that, but as the water gets into the hot frying pan, it will turn to steam, and it kind of disrupts the seasoning. Or like if you had it into a batter, it would turn to steam and it would knock off your batter. So you want it to be as dry as possible.
Okay, good tip to
All
know.
right, so we're going to put this on. Blackening, obviously.
Keys. What are the keys to blackening?
The keys to blackening. Matter of fact, when I was in school, we had a chef from Louisiana came down in New Orleans, and that was his only question was, how do you properly blacken? And obviously it is done with a cast iron, Griswold if you want to, skillet. And you add oil to it. They're getting a high smoke point oil, but this should be smoking hot when it hits.
Before, you get it smoking hot before you put the fish in.
Yes.
All right.
So let's go ahead and put
Step
this flounder
back.
down.
The art of blackening fish, the flounder. And this is flounder, everybody. So just want to remind everybody as you're putting this together. The
Very
dish is
a local fish.
Yeah, local fish. which
Easily
everybody
found.
loves. A lot of people love flounder. That is a good white fish for lots of people who are not big seafood or the heavy fishes, the oil fishes. But looks beautiful. So what's the temperature? I mean, we know it's hot because things are steaming, but what's the time do we do? You flip it over?
Depending on how thick the fish is, but as you can start to see, it will start turning opaque right around the edge. And so usually a fillet like that, maybe a minute and a half on each side. So it's a very quick process.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's this tool called?
This is another great tool. This is a fish spatula.
Okay.
So it's very thin in nature. It can actually scoop down and get that fish.
I need one of those.
Yes. it must have in the kitchen.
Yes.
So just out of curiosity, I mean, let's say we're having entertaining people for dinner. You can prepare this for sure and have it sit to the side. And what about the Brussels sprouts? Can they be prepared before
absolutely.
and they can sit?
Normally, there again, as we were talking about earlier about blanching, so maybe you just go not all the way done, and then reintroduce them into the pan just before service, and
one last toss.
One last toss.
All right. Well, that's my thing. If there's too many things that have to be out at the same time.
So I have a question. Is this a recipe that comes out of like your recipe or the cooking school? Or
I can't tell you that. Yes. No, this is actually, we're actually probably, as we're going to be open for a while, we have a restaurant, we'll probably have our own cookbook, we want to have our own blends.
Wonderful.
Our own spice blends. Yeah. So that's the goal anyway. So I think we're just about there.
Okay.
Another thing you can look for on fish is you can start to see right here. These are the fluids when the fluids get really white.
Okay. So let me ask you this. So again, if you're hosting a dinner party, how long can this sit before you have to serve it?
This would be my last thing that I would do.
Okay, so this is last
There again,
made,
too,
first
we want
out.
that seafood. We don't want that seafood to sit over a long period of time.
Right.
We want it to be freshly blackened,
Right.
still with a little bit of moisture left in it, because as it sits, it's going to dry out.
Voila.
The grits can hold, this can hold, but this should be your last thing that you're going to do.
All right.
One more question. So when you fillet the fish like that, is there a right side to cook first? Correct side to cook first?
I usually, it depends on, so I'm going to get probably the best sear or the best color off of the flesh side.
Okay.
So not the skin side, but the flesh side. So I turn these purposely down, the flesh side first, and
Okay.
then on the bottom side. Now, if I had the skin on, like say a snapper, and I wanted to score it, then I would go skin side down first, okay?
Alright.
Because that's the presentation side.
You gotta know your fish.
That's the presentation side.
Well, that's true. All right. So
All right.
we're moving on from here.
Let's go ahead and do some plating.
Okay.
All right.
Let's see. A little bit of this.
I'm gonna put some
This
really
is the
nice
grits, which he added some fresh corn to it. So it gives us consistency and some of that authentic corn taste.
So we have this beautiful bowl. So we'll have to clean up the edge now. We can go ahead and add our Brussels. Or maybe we'll do that last. We'll go ahead and go with our fish. Okay. We can layer this if we want to. All right. And maybe we'll go here.
You just read my mind. Because I do want to try the Brussels sprouts. I do want to try your grits. That would be great. The flounder looks wonderful. So I'm letting Kari and Gustavo taste the flounder because they love it so much.
Show this movie.
Isn't that beautiful? All right, beautiful.
Now we can also, if we wanted to, we could top this with some microgreens if we wanted to for some more color. I would suggest probably we could do that. I could
Okay.
also take a little more. I could take some of the broth. Let's just take some of this. Now I'm just gonna put a little bit. I'm gonna pull a little bit into the plate, just like that.
All right, let's clean off our spot. What do we think? It's so beautiful. And what is this? Or is that
This is
for the next-
something.
that's for
No,
next?
actually, this is something I did. So what I did, if you want to get that last little, because we also look at crunch factor in foods. So we have this really nice warm grits, and so these are very thinly sliced onions that I did, cornstarch, and I just lightly fried them.
Ooh,
so
those
now,
are really good. I love that stuff. I love onion rings.
I wasn't sure if it was onion or calamari.
But look at this. It's
so
beautiful.
now we're going to get a nice crunch
nice smell
factor.
it. Oh.
Yeah, yeah.
delicious.
We'll get a beautiful little crunch factor on here. And so there you go.
Well, thank you. I think
Sure.
we need to flip the camera again and let everybody in for a tasting. All right, so we have our taste testers for this dish. So look at this, they're fighting each other. So just before they go in, again, just a refresher, it's flounder blackened with Brussels sprouts with
you are.
sun-dried tomatoes and also grits with authentic corn in it. All right, let's see what their expressions are. It does look delicious. It's a beautiful, I mean, the colors, as Chef says, you know, we eat with our eyes at first and then we get a chance to taste. So Gustavo is closing his eyes and he's going, yeah. They're speechless.
And if you did want a little bit of squeeze, obey.
Okay.
There's your obey, and actually a little bit of dill. So if you did want to do a little squeeze over that, that would work.
Let's do a little squeeze.
Did you want to have some, Chef?
Oh no, I love preparing food. Not much of an eater, believe it or not. I love
Really?
preparing food.
So, all right, tell me what you like about this, Gustavo. Tell me, what was the flavors?
It has a little spice.
You got-
And it's
Gustavo, talk louder.
the combination of the ingredients makes your mouth water immediately. So yeah, it's amazing.
And what about you, Kari?
I love all the textures, and especially with the fried onion on top. It gave it some crunch combined with the corn, which was softer, and the fish. It's incredible, just the layering of.
So what did you think of having the grits as the base, as the starch? You know, that's an unusual starch for a dish, but it does look beautiful when it.
It's actually very light, so it's a lot lighter than a rice or risotto might be, or a quinoa.
Yeah.
and maybe because he cut it with the broth so many times, but you have all the richness of the flavor without the thickness of what might be breakfast grits.
Exactly.
Love it. I love it. Yeah.
He's done.
He's speechless. All right, enjoy. So as Gustavo and Kari are trying the dish and they're loving it, I'm just one of those people that is not a big fish lover, but I also wanted to try the side. So here I have the grits, the onion, and the Brussels sprouts with the sun-dried tomato. So I'm going to try the grits. And this is what's special about it. It's very good. Chef, the corn adds a little sweetness to the grits.
It does.
And I like that.
We're,
That's really
as we
good.
said, we were stacking flavor. So the grits, as most Northerners would say, why do we eat grits? Because they're kind of bland in nature. But adding the sweet corn to it now, so when you bite into the grit and you get that nice roasted corn,
Yeah.
you get that pop of sweetness.
And I really like it now, because I was on the fence about grits, because I probably have not had it like this, and then, so I get that. And then the Brussels sprouts, I mean, perfectly crispy.
We love Chef Huff's tips in the kitchen because it makes us a better chef. What is this one? This is called a spider spoon, and we love it because it's perfect for blanching and working with hot water. This is a fish spatula. We love these as well because they're perfect for that flounder piece. The other thing he suggested for us for the blackening season is called Chef Paul Pardun. We recommend that piece then. And you can find all these 3 items on our travel shop on our website, Coles by Kathryn. These are all great ideas for your kitchen. Up next, we're going to visit Chef Jackie Orrick. And do you have a sweet tooth? Well, you're a chocolate lover? Let's go visit her in the kitchen. So with our wonderful meal, we have to have dessert. So Kari, guess who we found? We have Chef Jacqueline, we call her Chef Jackie here, Orrick. And not only is she the head of the department for pastry and baking,
And culinary, the whole department.
and the whole department. So before we go too far, I mean, I'd love to hear a little about your story, because you're very passionate about it. When we're cooking over there before, now we're over in
Yes.
the dessert area. Well, tell me a little about your background.
Yes, well, actually, a lot of people may not know, but Chef Huff was my instructor about 22 years ago. I started off at Johnson & Wales in Charleston, South Carolina, and I started actually as a culinary student, and then I took 2 pastry classes in that degree and fell in love with the medium of sweets and icings and all the fun stuff they get to do. So I decided to double major and do culinary and baking. Stayed on, got my bachelor's in food service management, my master's in marketing. I'm a certified sommelier. I've started from the back to the front. I've loved this field so much that there's so much to offer that I've just kind of dipped my toes in every little thing that this culinary world has to offer. So what I have set up here, how to melt. I don't necessarily like to melt chocolate in the microwave. Because chocolate can burn very easily, so you never want to heat your chocolate over 120 degrees. So what I have set up here, this is dark chocolate and then white chocolate, but if you didn't know, white chocolate's really not chocolate at all. It's a made-up confection. We have what's called a double boiler. We have a little bit of water. You heat it up to a simmer, and you don't want the water to touch the bottom of the bowl. You want the steam to slowly melt your chocolate. And when you start to dip or try to do anything with chocolate, to get a nice crisp, you would have to shell. You would have to do what's called tempering. But for home and average, just a quick, what you might have seen, you would like to do a chocolate coating. So with tempering, you actually have to melt the chocolate, cool it down, and then rewarm it, because you want the cocoa butter and the cocoa solids, what actually is made up of chocolate, to come together at the right temperature, so almost emulsify at that proper 88 degrees. That's a lot of work for the average person. So what I'm going to teach you guys today is how to make a chocolate coating. It's kind of like what you would put over ice cream, and it quickly sets up. So a chocolate coating, what I've got here is about a pound of, again, either chocolate, dark, or milk, white, and you add about a tablespoon of oil. You can do vegetable oil is what I've used here, and that extra fat slightly seizes the chocolate and allows it to set up quickly within a couple minutes. If you needed to speed up the process, you could also throw it in the refrigerator. 2 enemies of chocolate, which you may not know, is going to be moisture, water, so you don't want it to sit in a cooler too long. And also with a double boiler, which I tell my students all the time, anytime you do a double boiler with anything that you're working with, always make sure you have a towel, and you always want to wipe the bottom of the bowl, because this moisture, if it gets in anywhere of the chocolate, will cause it to seize in or separate. So we have a nice melted white chocolate coating. I'm going to put right here, kind of tipping at an angle so that the chocolate falls down. And then we have a beautiful.
So I never heard about. Oh, I see now. I know what it's prompt. That you add a little oil to it. Is that a tip?
It is a tip.
Secret tip.
It is a secret tip. So you don't have to buy the shell. You can make your own with semi-sweet milk, white, dark, and it seizes it up. And again, it gives it a nice, beautiful shine.
And so when
shell.
you put the oil in the first time or the second time? When you first melt
when
it.
you melt it, then you put it in.
And you said a tablespoon to a pound of chocolate?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so that's part one. Now we know the tricks about this. So now
Yes.
next, I can see we were working a little bit beforehand. We covered some of the chocolates. So now, give us some more tips about how would you recommend. So we have
a few tips. We have our strawberries here.
Yeah.
I do not encourage you to wash your berries. So I have a pastry brush where you could just lightly brush and try to get any of the dirt, if there's any on there. But again, moisture from washing the berries would get into the chocolate, and it will not work. So lightly brush with the pastry brush, and then also you can either dip with, as I said, have here a skewer, or you could do a toothpick if you don't want to get your hands, if you can't hold the green. I like to keep the green on just so that when people have something to grab that they can when they're eating it, but you can also take the green off so that the whole berry is edible. And then I will do one little demo here where I like to get it all the way in, so twirling it around, trying to get all the way up to the white, and then you're going to let it carefully drip down. So the trick about when you're finished dipping is setting it on the paper for it to set up. Now when you set it up, you don't want to have what's called a little footy, and I'm going to come across, pardon my reach, ladies. I'm going to come here and I'm going to put it down, and then I slide it forward, and that will allow for no footy to appear in the front, and it's going to create a little base for itself. Okay, so
Great trick.
push it down and slide it forward.
okay.
Fresh strawberries, don't wash them, so you wouldn't want to put them in the refrigerator and then take them out of the refrigerator
so I'm
because
gonna
then
do
they would
one.
have gotten moisture on them.
That's
right?
correct. So if you see this
So
berry
we-
right here, you've got a little bit of moisture, which if there is any, I would get a paper towel and lightly dab that moisture off. But none of these berries have been washed. They've been lightly brushed.
So we twirl it into the
Twirl
chocolate.
it. Yep.
Whoops. Oh no, I went to the green
That's
zone.
all right.
Oh, and I'm still in the red zone.
You're okay because that's going to be the base. That's going to be
Okay,
the bottom.
we're gonna make it the base. Shh, don't see that part. So we let it drizzle. Okay.
Yep, and you
then
come.
I'm gonna go this way.
You
So
can go
I'm
that
gonna
way
put that
and push it down.
forward.
There you go.
Oh, look at that.
There you go.
We can do this.
You can do anything.
They're beautiful.
Yep.
So why do you think people like chocolate strawberries so much?
Well, I don't know who doesn't like chocolate. It's a beautiful, sweet ending where it's not too sweet. I'll say Americans love the sugar-rich factor.
I lost it.
Oop, then you just grab the tip.
Oh, this is a fondue.
It's almost what it becomes. I'm part Eastern European, and I like, they don't like as much sweeter items, so this is also where we get the natural sweetness of the berry, and then you have a dark chocolate where it's not as sweet. So you get the sweet plus the not sweet, which gives it a nice balance of
We'll put that
flavors.
for later.
All right, terrific. So now I noticed we have some bags to decorate.
Yes,
So what do you
we do.
recommend?
So I'm gonna move this. So for fun decorating, so we can do what's called tuxedo strawberries.
And how long do you want to wait for it to set?
For setting, it takes a couple of minutes. Again, if you wanted to speed it up, you would just need to put it in the refrigerator, but you'll start to see that it's starting to get a nice little shine. It'll take just a few minutes because the chocolate was a little warm. So we did have a few strawberries dipped just a little bit early. So we have what's called here a cornet bag. It's the same chocolate that's in there. So you're just going to cut off a small little tip. And then for the white, you just kind of drizzle back and forth, slowly over. And again, you can get as fun and fancy as you want to.
Beautiful.
All right, I'm gonna do one, and then actually, ladies, you're more than welcome to take a stab at it.
And you want to wait till the surface is completely hardened?
You want to wait till they're completely set up, and then you would go on top of the new ones that we just dipped. And if you wanted to do what's called a tuxedo strawberry, you would need it completely.
Can you make designs?
You sure can. You can do whatever you like. You can put your initials, heart
I was
stars.
going to say, put a big K on there for Kathryn and Kari. Oh, I love that.
Oh, you know what we're gonna do? This is gonna be. I need a big one for this one. I'm gonna let you do the next one. C W K.
as you see.
Nice.
Piping is not very easy. As I tell my students, anything that you do, whether it's cooking or baking, takes practice.
To celebrate the end of our show, look at the beautiful treats that we have. We have CWK with hearts and kisses. We want to thank you so much for introducing us. I'd like to, Chef Miles, thank you so much for our help, and Chef Jackie, I want to thank you so much.
Pleasure.
You know, the food was just outstanding, and chefs, with your tips, I mean, my audience, they're going to have something to think about, and they're going to be able to create a wonderful meal for their friends. And also having my friend here, Kari, visiting us from Annapolis, I want to thank you for being part of the show as well.
I've quite enjoyed it. It's been a wonderful experience to be behind the scenes. Thank you.
Absolutely. So everybody, thanks for joining us. And just one more thing, if you like our show, we'd love to hear what your thoughts are. Give us some ideas for recipes. We will share them. And one more thing, go to our YouTube channel, subscribe, like, and share. All right, we'll see you next time. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.